Hey everyone, I'm Tapawapo. I'm a husband, a father of two, a Pokemon VGC streamer, and as of June 24th, 2026, a Twitch partner. So I've actually almost been Twitch partner for almost 2 months at this point, at least at the time of this recording. So this video is mostly going to be me telling my story of my streaming journey, how I got Twitch partner by only streaming 2 days a week, my thoughts, some advice, and also just some general yapping about my experience. So keep in mind that this video isn't strictly a how to get Twitch partner kind of video. It's a combination of my story with streaming, Pokemon VGC, and also how I eventually ended up becoming a Twitch partner. Also, for those who usually watch my streams, you'll notice that my camera isn't upside down like how it usually is. So I mean like this, hello world, I am upside down, and now I am right side up again. I'm going to be recording this with a right side up camera because for those who are not familiar with me, I think it'd be kind of weird if, I just did this video for however long it's going to be and I was upside down the entire time. So yeah, we're going to be recording this right side up. Also, just keep in mind that everything I say in this video is anecdotal, and that in regards to any tips or any advice that I might give, it's all from my own experience, and it might not necessarily be applicable or work for everyone. All this, again, is my opinion, shouldn't be taken as fact. Mostly it's just me talking about my story, wanting to tell my story, so take it as you will. You can use the advice I give, you could not use the advice I give, you can agree with the tips I have, you can disagree with them, completely up to you. Most of this is just going to be storytelling. To get into it, I'm a Pokemon VGC streamer who's known for playing nothing but Trick Room. And before I go any further, if you don't know what VGC is, it stands for Video Game Championships, and it's the official format for competitive Pokemon battling, which is double battles, where each player chooses 4 out of the 6 Pokemon that are on their team, and they send out 2 at a time to do battle. And if you don't know what Trick Room is, in Pokemon, Trick Room is a move where when you use it, it makes it so that for the next 5 turns, technically 4, Pokemon that have a lower speed stat will move before Pokemon with higher speed stats. So normally in Pokemon, the way that turn order is decided, normally if a Pokemon has a higher speed stat, they will move before a Pokemon with a lower speed stat. But when you set up Trick Room, it basically completely reverses that order. So it basically flips the speed tiers on its head. Trick Room teams are where the strategy is to set up Trick Room and ideally win or at least gain a massive advantage before Trick Room expires and the speed orders return to normal. So I first started streaming back in 2014. And back then I streamed nothing except for League of Legends. And back then I really didn't have any thoughts or aspirations of becoming big with streaming in any way, shape, or form. It wasn't very consistent either, and I just randomly boot up stream while I played League of Legends with friends from time to time, like while on voice call, and this pretty much lasted up until the summer of 2020. So during this time, COVID lockdown was happening, and I was getting pretty bored of League of Legends. Since I didn't really ever play anything beyond normal draft mode, and for ranked, usually I just got to gold before never touching ranked again until the next season. And also, admittedly, the game did make me pretty toxic, even when I was playing with my friends. So, one day I was browsing Twitch for something to watch while I was working, and I tuned into the official Pokemon Twitch channel, which at the time was broadcasting an official online tournament called the Players' Cup. And I ended up tuning in and becoming hooked while watching the competitors battle. And Pokemon wasn't something that was new to me, since I'd been a fan of Pokemon for over 20 years at that time. My first ever Pokemon game was Pokemon Red, which I got back on my 7th birthday. But Pokemon wasn't the kind of game that I played very consistently or took super seriously. And it was more of a seasonal kind of game for me. So what I mean by seasonal is that every 3 years or so, when a new generation of Pokemon games came out, I would get back into Pokemon due to the initial hype of the new generation before losing interest in it at max, like maybe 2 months into the new game's release. And This happened roughly every 3 years or so, whenever a new generation came out. At the time, the newest generation was Generation 8, which was the Sword and Shield era. And I invested a lot of time into the game during the first 2 months that it was out. And then, the same thing happened. I just stopped playing it altogether until watching the Players' Cup tournament on Twitch. And I guess the reason why I decided to start streaming competitive Pokemon battling was due to my interest in it while watching the Players' Cup take place. And also just thinking to myself that I knew enough about Pokemon battling and that I could potentially battle as well as the players who qualified for and played in the Players' Cup. Another thing that drew me into Pokemon VGC was the ranking system compared to games like League of Legends. So, for example, in League, you have ranks like Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold, Plat, etc., etc. But unless you're in, I think, Masters or higher, your rank is considered crap if you're anything below that, and getting to Masters is pretty long and difficult, whereas in Pokemon games, you could easily get into Master Ball in just like one sitting, maybe like at max like 2 hours of gaming, if you get really lucky with your games, or it might take a little bit longer. But the point is, it's much easier to reach Master Ball than it is to reach Masters in League of Legends. Obviously, it's not a one-to-one comparison, since getting to really high rank in League of Legends is objectively harder and requires a much higher skill ceiling. But I mean, even the fact that I could get to the highest rank tier and then seeing that my overall ranking in that highest rank tier was pretty high made me feel like I could stand out playing and streaming Pokemon battles. And also because Pokemon Sword and Shield, and by extension VGC, wasn't nearly as congested in viewership as, say, a game like League of Legends, which was pretty much all I streamed before then. Discovery on Twitch, I figured it was a lot more likely, and it actually was. So I continued to play more online ranked battles on Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I started to watch Pokemon VGC streamers on Twitch. So some of the streamers that I'd regularly watch and became inspired by were Mastermark VGC, Joe UX9, Jin Fury, Sierra Dawn, Lucky Wolf, Below Zero, Professor Ragna, The Battle Room, That's a Plus One, and Auxiliary. Although I think Auxiliary stopped streaming VGC sometime in 2021, and she's now known for doing a variety of other different content. And there were times where the streamers that I watched would make certain decisions in-game, where I thought to myself, hey, that's not the right play, and I would instead do this. And I ended up being right, and I guess that sort of boosted my ego and confidence in Pokemon, because at the time, I was relatively newer to VGC. I ended up streaming VGC myself since I felt like I could potentially play just as well as the streamers that I was watching, because unlike League of Legends, I could actually play in the top tier ranks, at least on the online ladder, of Pokemon ranked battles, which I felt like would draw people into my stream, because from my perspective, I thought that people typically like to watch, high-tier gameplay, and because I was pretty high up on the rank ladder in Pokemon Sword and Shield, I thought, hey, people are probably going to want to watch me. So from 2020 to 2022, I usually only streamed to maybe one person, if I was lucky. But also, I didn't even stream really to try and grow or gain an audience. At one point, my main reason for streaming Pokemon VGC was because, admittedly, I would rage a lot while playing ranked battles offline, and by streaming while playing, I wouldn't rage while broadcasting because I was live. And I would talk out loud while making my plays, and overall I just played better because I was more composed while I was playing on stream. And that honestly still holds true to today. I mean, not the rage part. To be clear, I don't rage anymore, even when I play it offline, but I digress. And since 2021, I would always do really well while playing ranked battles in Pokemon, and I'd consistently be in the top 1,000 rankings worldwide, which, again, boosted my ego because compared to when I played League of Legends, and I was only gold, sometimes plat, which overall is extremely average and nothing special, I could maintain consistency in Pokemon. I would also regularly encounter players in the VGC scene that were considered, I guess, top players, or if not top players, at least like competitors that were like well known within the competitive scene, and I would sometimes win against them. So this was also something that I loved about VGC, because the barrier for entry for it's relatively low, and it's not the type of game where if you were newer, you get completely stomped out by someone who's like more veteran at the game. So, for example, with League of Legends, say if you're an average player, right, like you're a gold player or a silver player, and you get matched against like a pro that plays for the LCS or any of the regional leagues, you're probably going to get destroyed. Or, for example, if you're new to, say, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and if you go against a veteran, you're probably going to get four-stocked. I don't know, maybe that's not how Melee works anymore, but again, I digress. The main point here is that in VGC, anyone can beat anyone, and I really like that aspect of VGC. So, fast forward to 2022, and real-life Pokemon regionals started coming back after 2 years of no events due to COVID, and watching the first regional broadcast in 2 years on Twitch, it just further boosted my love for VGC, and it made me want to attend regional, and I did end up attending one that year, but my son was also born in 2022, so when 2023 rolled around, Scarlet and Violet became the new mainline game, and I couldn't attend any events since my wife and son were my main priority. So I didn't have any major connections in the community, and I felt a lot of FOMO, so I continued to do the only thing that I could do to be an active part of the VGC community, which was to stream. I started becoming more active, making friends with people in the community. I started streaming a bit more consistently, and by June 2023, I finally started getting regular viewership, instead of just streaming to the void or to just one person. So at first I went to 10 to 15 viewers, which for me was a lot at the time. And then eventually it went to 30 to 40 pretty consistently. And I started streaming solely on weekends because I noticed that when I streamed on weekends during the afternoon, I was getting regular viewership, even though normally I got none, because there was almost no one streaming Pokemon VGC during those days and times, so I took advantage of it. I took advantage of the time slot, and I ended up getting 500 followers on Twitch by the end of the summer. So fast forward to October 2023, and I ended up going to Twitchcon because it was suggested to me by one of my best friends who went in 2022, and he was playing a Go Again with his girlfriend at the time, who was an old school RuneScape streamer, and I ended up saying, hey, why not? And I went with them to Vegas, and I stayed with them and a bunch of other old school RuneScape people in an Airbnb. And while I was there, I sort of just did my own thing because they were all old school RuneScape folks, and for me, I was a Pokemon person. So I went out and I met up with a friend of mine while in Vegas, who was also attending TwitchCon, HimmyTurner69 on Twitch, or HimmyTurner Inc. on TikTok. And at the time, he was also a VGC streamer, and he ended up getting Twitch partner not even 10 months after he started streaming. And I remember hanging out with him and his friend group, all of whom were bigger creators than I was at the time, and I remember on the very first day of TwitchCon 2023, I really started to feel imposter syndrome. So I did feel like I grew a lot within the Pokemon VGC community. I became more well-known, my Twitch was growing, I was getting regular viewers, but while I was at TwitchCon, I felt like a nobody. I was hanging with other Pokemon streamers who were Twitch partners, and I felt like I was just there. So yeah, as weird as it sounds, I feel like being at TwitchCon that year and feeling like a nobody pushed me to try and get Twitch partner, and I ended up telling myself that I wouldn't ever go back to TwitchCon unless it was as Twitch partner. And when I came home from TwitchCon, I really started grinding with streaming, and I got to 1,000 followers on Twitch right before 2024 came around. So I made it a goal to try and get Twitch partner in 2024, and I grew a lot throughout the year. I was regularly getting consistent viewership because I was pretty well known for streaming VGC by that point, and I would regularly post clips onto Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and my follower count was increasing at a pretty fast rate, or at least I thought it was. I think regularly posting content onto Twitter helped a lot, but at this point I was also regularly streaming like 5 days a week, only taking Tuesdays and Fridays off, and I'm not gonna lie, it sucked. It felt pretty miserable. And during the beginning of the year, I even streamed 6 days a week at one point, but I realized that became way too much, so I dropped it down to 5, which was still a lot, but obviously not as much as 6. One thing I will say that was pretty cool though was the recognition that I was getting from the Pokemon VGC community. So players who are regularly making day 2 at majors, getting top cut, and occasionally even regional champions were telling me how they were familiar with my streams and content and how they enjoyed it. And there were people who I didn't even think knew that I existed in the community. They did in fact know that I exist, and they did in fact know about me, and they said they enjoyed what I did, and that was really cool. So by the end of 2024, I had over 3,000 followers, but I never got to submit a partner application. The closest I got was like a 71 out of 75 average viewer count. Then 2025 rolls by, and I'm still streaming 5 days a week. Weekdays starting at around 7 p.m. and weekends early in the morning, all while editing content to upload right after finishing stream. So I ended up doing really well in a huge online official tournament for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that had over 14,000 participants. I got runner-up, second place after Wolf Glick, who is considered to be one of the best Pokemon VGC players in the world and probably the most iconic person in the Pokemon scene. And that helped boost my popularity a little bit, but overall I still wasn't hitting the numbers consistently to even be able to apply for Twitch partner. And honestly, at this point, I felt like I hated streaming, even though I never said it out loud for my audience to hear or know. And a part of me felt this way even back in 2024. So it felt like a second job that I was doing 5 days a week. I'd finish work, and 3 of those 5 work days I'd have 2 to 3 hours between finishing my day job and going live. Then I'd edit and go to bed right after. So obviously I could have just stopped streaming anytime I wanted to, and there was nothing forcing me to continue streaming, even when I felt miserable doing it. But at the same time, I felt like I gained so much momentum and growth with streaming that if I quit now, before getting partner, all the time and effort that I put in over the past 2 years would just be for nothing. So I sort of developed a sunk cost fallacy mindset. And eventually I ended up becoming an official co-streamer for the Pokemon World Championships in 2025. And that helped grow my following, but I still didn't have the numbers to get Twitch partner. Then when my daughter was born in mid-September of 2025, I had 3 months off from work due to parental leave, and I thought, hey, maybe I could get partner while streaming during daylight hours, which honestly, I highly preferred over nighttime streams. But during that time, the interest in Pokemon VGC was pretty dead since Scarlet and Violet was almost 3 years old, and it was growing really stale. There were some disconnects between the formats that were being played in-game versus in real-life tournaments, and a lot of the focus for VGC was put towards an upcoming game, Pokemon Champions, which everyone was waiting for to be released, since it was going to be the new standard for VGC. So after my parental leave ended, I realized that there was really no way that I could continue streaming as often as I did in the past, because it just wouldn't be fair to my wife, who for the past 2 years was the one putting our son to sleep so that I could stream regularly on weekdays. And now we have another child, a baby, who doesn't have a static sleep schedule. So I made the decision to stop streaming on a regular schedule and only do casual streams once in a blue moon. Also, again, Pokemon VGC, it was pretty dead content-wise and on Twitch during this time. And I was more interested in playing old school RuneScape anyway, which I played a lot of and honestly still do. So I don't even touch anything Pokemon related for a while. And the few streams that I do on some weekends are all just old school RuneScape streams where I'm averaging less than 10 viewers per stream. But that didn't matter to me since I pretty much stopped caring about being a dedicated streamer at that point. And also I didn't have any ambition to try and grow anymore anyway. So from early February 2026 until early April, I didn't go live on Twitch at all. I didn't even think about streaming. I'm just hanging out with my wife and kids and playing old school RuneScape when I can in my free time. And honestly, it felt pretty refreshing because the past 2 years before this, I was regularly streaming at least 5 days a week. And now I finally felt comfortable not going live and not worrying about it. You know, not worrying, hey, am I going to lose my momentum? Am I going to lose my viewers? Am I going to not be able to hit partner because I stopped streaming? None of that mattered at this point. Then in early April 2026, Pokemon Champions was finally released. And even then, I don't think much about it, but I do think to myself, hey, maybe I'll just stream on weekends because why not? And on Twitter, I announced a comeback for regular weekend streams. And when I decided to start streaming again, regularly on weekends only, I didn't even have any intention of trying to grow or get Twitch partner. I just wanted to do it for fun. So the first 2 streams that I do on the weekend that Pokemon Champions comes out, I average around 50 viewers per stream, which was lower than what I normally average prior to my hiatus. But at the same time, I thought that's pretty impressive because I hadn't even streamed for 2 months. And also, I didn't even stream Pokemon VGC since early October. So the next weekend, I go live on Saturday and Sunday, and both streams, my average viewer count is above 75 per stream. At this point, the path to partner requirements for Twitch also experienced huge changes. So for context, before these changes, to get partner, I think you had to do like 12 separate streams within a 30-day period, all with an average of 75 viewers or more. And also, don't quote me on this, but I've heard that even just that 30-day period isn't enough, and I think you have to like replicate it with a second 30-day period. Again, I don't know if that's actually how it worked back then, but that's what I heard. Doesn't apply to me because I got partner under the new rules. So for someone like me who can only stream on weekends due to family obligations, there's absolutely no way I could have pulled it off under these old requirements. But thankfully, Twitch changed the requirements so that now to get partner, you need to get 6 streams within one 30-day period, all with 75 average viewers. Then on a second separate consecutive 30-day period, another 6 streams, all with 75 average viewers. So from that second weekend that I came back from my 2-month hiatus from streaming, I actually completed 2 out of 6 required streams for the current 30-day period. And I thought to myself that, hey, theoretically, it could be possible for me to get Twitch partner. If every single weekend I got 75 average viewers per stream, but I didn't keep my expectations high since I felt like only streaming weekends was a huge disadvantage, and I thought it would hurt my consistency and ability to retain viewers. But weekend, after almost every stream, I would have above the 75 average viewers per stream, with the exception of maybe a few streams. Every Saturday and Sunday, I'd go live, and my viewership, it would jump to above 100 plus within the first hour of being live. And by the time that I applied for partner in mid-June, 16 out of 21 of the streams I did since Pokemon Champions had come out in April all had above 75 average viewers, with the last 11 streams that I did before I submitted my application all being above 100 average viewers. Then, exactly 1 week after submitting my application, I got Twitch partner. Also, quick disclaimer, the odd number of total streams was due to me streaming on Memorial Day, so there was one instance where I did stream 3 days a week. So, as to what I did differently the second time around, I don't think I did anything too different, but I did stream less, only on weekends, so it felt a lot healthier, and it actually made me excited to go live because I only did it twice a week. Granted, I didn't really have a choice since I don't have the time or availability to stream on any weekdays due to working a full-time job on weekdays and spending time with my wife and kids, but I do think that the timing was important. So I started streaming again at a time where the content that I stream, Pokemon VGC, went to an all-time high due to the release of the new game, Pokemon Champions. So interest in VGC on Twitch was extremely low before Champions was released because Scarlet and Violet pretty much became dead games when it came to streaming for VGC after the 2025 World Championships ended. When Pokemon Champions came out, I also noticed that there were a lot of streamers who used to always get less viewership than me in the past who were streaming the game and getting an absurd number of viewers. And I'm not saying this out of hatred or jealousy or anything like that. These people are all people that I'm friendly with, and I'm just saying it as a matter of fact and from observation. So I think to myself, hey, if they can do it, why can't I? So I committed to streaming Pokemon Champions every weekend. And every stream, I had a blast, and my viewership would always be a lot bigger than I actually expected it to be. I guess it did also help that I already had an established audience when I returned to streaming, because at the time I had over 4,700 followers on Twitch, over 2,600 followers on Twitter, and I was already known in the VGC community by the time Pokemon Champions came out. So, some thoughts I have in regards to streaming on Twitch, and if you're aiming to eventually get partner. Number 1, hardware. I'm not saying that you need the most top-of-the-line PC specs like an RTX 5090 paired with a Ryzen 7 9800 X3D, but at the same time, I wouldn't use a MacBook, for example, to stream. Streaming's a pretty resource-intensive activity, and I remember back when I first started streaming back in 2014, I used like a $400, $500 laptop that I bought from Staples, and my stream quality was absolutely horrendous. It was basically borderline unwatchable. I would at least get something, even if it's just a budget setup, and of course I'd make sure that you're wired via Ethernet, and that you're not streaming off of Wi-Fi. Because no matter how good your hardware is or how good your internet plan is, if you're streaming off Wi-Fi, your connection is going to be unstable and your speeds are going to be bottlenecked. Number 2, setting a schedule and sticking to it. So this way your viewers, they know when to expect you to go live. If you have your own Discord channel and or Twitter, announce when you plan to go live, at least one day before you actually do. Or if you have the entire week planned out, lay it all out in one tweet or one post in your Discord. If you're going to start earlier or later than usual, announce it. One thing I always tell people is that the hardest part is always hitting the go live button. If you don't stream, people aren't going to watch. Of course, don't force yourself to stream just to stream if you're not feeling it. But if you want to grow on Twitch, then you're going to need to find a schedule, a cadence that works for you and makes you want to go live rather than it feeling like a chore. So honestly, even if it's just 2 days a week like me, or even just once a week, or even if each stream is only an hour and a half or 2 hours long because you don't want to stream for 3 to 4 hours like I do, find something that works for you, that gets you into the rhythm, and makes you excited to actually hit the go live button. Because when I was streaming 5 days a week, I forced myself to hit it, which sure, it's good that I stay consistent, but it sucked for me because I didn't actually want to. So I know that might sound a little bit contradictory, but my main point is find a schedule that works specifically for you and determine how long you want your streams to be. Like, how long are you actually comfortable streaming for without it feeling like a chore? Honestly, I'm still surprised that I even managed to get Twitch Partner, because I felt like I was a nobody in the Pokemon VGC community for years before everyone started knowing me as a streamer. And there's so many people in the VGC community who I genuinely think that if they started regularly streaming, they could easily get partner with how popular they are, how well known they are, and also based off of how many people tuned into their streams during the times that they actually did stream here and there. But I understand why people don't stream, even if they have the potential to easily grow really big. Because again, hitting the go live button is always going to be the hardest part. Because there's always something else that you could be doing instead of streaming and having to turn your brain on and entertain others in real time. But if your goal is to grow, you have to stream. But again, find a cadence that works for you. Find a schedule that works for you and determine how long you want your streams to be. Even if it's only an hour, 2 hours, right? Not exactly the longest stream times, but it's something. And then maybe with time, you'll decide, hey, I want to stream 2 hours or 3 hours instead of 1 hour, or maybe I want to stream 4 hours instead of, 2 hours. Number 3, keep your stream titles simple and consistent. So this is something that I learned from Himmy Turner 69, who I mentioned earlier. So for example, if you look at all my VODs on my Twitch, every single stream title is Pokemon VGC ranked with Hard Trick Room. Every single one. Don't try and be flashy or try and put some clever inside joke as your title. So the reason for this is because you want to put simple keywords in your title that immediately catch the eye of anyone scrolling, looking for a channel to watch that involves your specific type of content. Also, you got to keep in mind that not everyone on Twitch speaks English, but by putting VGC in my stream title, anyone who's looking to watch a VGC stream immediately knows I'm streaming double battles and not single battles, regardless of the language that they speak. So using another game as an example, let's say Old School RuneScape. It could be something, for example, like parentheses, Iron Man, Corrupted Gauntlet, Bofa Hunt, or something like that, so that people know what kind of account you're playing and what kind of content you're doing. And of course, this isn't like a golden rule. This is just, like a tip that I personally found helpful. Like, there are some streamers, for example, like, say, Tyler1. Like, let's take a look at this title. It's funny and it's ridiculous, but at the same time, it's Tyler1, right? Like, someone like Tyler1, who's one of the biggest Twitch streamers around, like, he could put anything as his stream title and thousands of people will still join and watch him. But for the average Joe, for you, for me, try and keep it consistent. Number 4, take advantage of certain hours. So what I mean by this is that it's good to know when there's a gap in the specific kind of content that you stream and to stream during those times. So when I got back into streaming and got partners streaming only on weekends, I would only stream early in the mornings, like around 7 o'clock to 8 a.m., because pretty much no one else streamed Pokemon VGC during those hours on weekends, and if there were any, they were usually Italian or Spanish streamers, so I would be the only English-speaking streamer in the category. Also, on days where there was a Pokemon regional being broadcasted, I would either start earlier or later, depending on where it took place. So, for example, if it was a North American regional, I would go on the Pokemon YouTube channel some days before, and I'd see what time the broadcast was going to start. And I'd plan my stream that day to start way before the broadcast begins. And I would wrap it up by the time that the first match begins during the regional broadcast. So I did this because I noticed that not too many people, if any at all, stream VGC right before a broadcast of regionals scheduled to happen. So I decided to go live hours before to give people a place to hang out and watch VGC content before the official tournament broadcast began. So for European Pokemon regionals, due to the time difference, I would typically start my streams after the European broadcast finished for the day, since there would be virtually no one streaming VGC after the broadcast ended, and it gave people more VGC content to watch immediately after the regional ended. So another friend of mine and Twitch partner, Teo Pokemon, he always streams late at night due to his own life schedule, but by doing so, he's the only person streaming VGC during those night hours. So when night owls or people from across the world in different time zones want a VGC stream to watch during those times where almost no one's live, he's available for them to tune into. Number 5, short form content. So it can help to post short form content to other platforms, though I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker for working towards getting partner. I've noticed that a lot of people say to post content to other platforms to drive traffic to your Twitch, and sure, that's valid, and the content that I posted on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, actually did help me gain a lot of followers. And there's been countless times where I've gotten new followers and new chatters on Twitch who tell me that they found me through the content that I posted on Twitter/X. But a large majority of the VGC streamers that I know that got partnered these last few years, I can't think of a single one of them that actually posted any content outside of Twitch prior to getting partner. And if they did, then I don't recall any of the content doing big numbers or getting any significant attention, but they still got it. So posting content to other platforms can help, but in the end, it's always going to be about your actual live streams and if you can actually retain the viewership when you're live. So again, like I said in the beginning of this video, all this is anecdotal to my experience. I'm just sharing my perspective. It's not necessarily correct. Maybe some of you will actually experience explosive growth on Twitch through your content on other platforms outside of it, and maybe you'll end up getting partner through it. I'm just speaking from what I've personally observed in my niche category of content. Number 6, my thoughts on partner pushing. Should you do it, and if so, when? Honestly, I don't think there's a correct answer for this, and it's really entirely up to you. So I announced a partner push back in 2025, and for me, it didn't end up going anywhere. When I ended up getting partner, I never actually officially announced a partner push, and I never put the words partner push or partner pushing in my stream titles, but I did regularly provide updates on Twitter and in my Discord of my progress towards partners, so I guess in a way I was kind of advertising a partner push without officially stating that I was partner pushing. I have VGC friends who are now Twitch partner who announce partner pushes, as well as other Pokemon creators in other categories who also announce partner pushes, and they were really successful with it. I'd say if you have the audience and the traction, go for it. I was once told that announcing partner pushes can be obnoxious and to just let it rock naturally, and if you're meant to get partner, it'll happen. But from the majority of partner pushes that I've witnessed this year, they all seem to be pretty successful, and personally, I never got an obnoxious vibe from anyone who actually announced one. So would I personally recommend that you announce a partner push if, say, you stream very little and typically don't have any viewers to begin with? Personally, no. But again, to each their own. And last thing, if you want to go for a partner push, honestly, go for it and don't be afraid. I say that because when I announced that I was going to partner push in 2025, mentally, I was afraid of fully committing to the partner push and even announcing it so often because I was afraid that maybe I'd sound really obnoxious and annoying, constantly talking about becoming partner and, do this and do that to help with the partner push. And also I thought that if I didn't end up getting partner after announcing a partner push, I'd look like an idiot and I'd look like a failure. I mean, maybe I wouldn't have even gotten partner even if I did fully commit to the push, but also there's the chance that maybe I would have if I actually put my heart into it. So if you do partner push, don't be afraid of it potentially failing like I did. Just commit to it. I've seen so many successful partner pushes this year that I'm actually convinced that partner pushing does work. But again, there's not really a right answer for this. Either do it or don't. Completely up to you. Number 7, has anything changed since I got partner? I'd say no. I don't feel like I've been treated any differently since I've gotten the check mark next to my name, nor should I be. Number 8, this is easier said than done, but seriously, try not to overly stress about getting partner when you're working towards it. So from 2023 to 2025, even though, yeah, I did put in a lot of time to grow my Twitch, I also felt like I hated streaming because at one point I was just going through the motions to try and eventually get Twitch partner, and streaming just to stream. Not streaming because I actually enjoyed it. Ironically, when I came back to streaming when Pokemon Champions came out, I didn't hold any expectations, and I streamed only 2 days a week, but those 2 days a week were extremely effective streams, and since I've started the schedule of streaming only on weekends, I felt like I've gotten a lot more joy and value out of these streams than back when I was streaming 5 days a week. Number 9. And this kind of ties back to the previous point that I just made, but seriously, don't let streaming get in the way of your real life. So when I made the decision to stop streaming so much so that I could spend more time with my growing family, I can't tell you how freeing it felt to not have to force myself any longer to stream 5 days a week. It was incredibly unhealthy, and yeah, I did get back into streaming eventually, but at a much less frequent basis. And even if I did have the time and bandwidth to stream more than just 2 days a week on weekends, I would still stick to my current schedule just because my wife and kids, they're just more important to me than going live. And as I said earlier, streaming just 2 days a week for me personally has felt a lot healthier and has been way more enjoyable than when I was doing 5 days a week. Quality over quantity. Number 10, talk to your chat. Acknowledge them. They're taking time out of their day to watch you and chose your stream out of thousands of other streams that are available to watch on Twitch. You don't have to kowtow to every single thing they say or request. So, for example, in my streams, I never play with viewers. I just don't like doing viewer battles, viewer games. I like just doing my own thing. Don't force yourself to do something that you don't want to, just to satisfy or retain viewers, but at the bare minimum, talk to your chat and respond to them. Unless, of course, someone says something completely out of line, then obviously don't acknowledge that, but if it's just general chat, do your best to acknowledge and respond to them. Number 11, turn your webcam on. This might not seem like a big deal, but it actually is. People, they want to see your reactions and your expressions in real time while you game. So unless you're a VTuber and you use an avatar, don't be camera shy. Number 12, stream content that you enjoy. I stream Pokemon VGC, but I'm very open about what I'm willing to stream and what my goals were. So, context. In Pokemon, the online rank ladder is always formatted as best of 1, closed team sheets. So what this means is that you queue against an opponent and you play them in one battle and one battle only before you move on to the next one. And closed team sheets means that the only thing that you can see from your opponent's team are the 6 Pokemon that they have. But you can't see their movesets, their stats, their abilities, their natures, or their held items. So in real life Pokemon VGC tournaments, the format is always going to be best of 3 open team sheets. So this means that in order to be declared the winner of a round, you have to be the first to win 2 battles against your opponent. So you could lose the first game, then you could readjust and adapt and then win the next 2 and be the winner. And also, open team sheets means that you can see what movesets, abilities, natures, and held items that your opponent has. So back in the day, before I really committed to streaming VGC regularly, and I had more of a mindset to potentially compete in the VGC circuit, there was and sometimes still is discourse regarding playing the online rank ladder as compared to playing grassroots best of 3 open team sheet tournaments. And I kind of felt ashamed that I enjoyed playing the in-game ladder so much because of this discourse, and I try to force myself to play in grassroots best of 3 online tournaments, but I hated it because I just didn't have the patience to spend hours committing to a tournament and waiting for a round to end. But I noticed that people actually did enjoy watching streams where people played online rank ladder, despite the fact that the format of it was best of one, closed team sheets, which you wouldn't play in a tournament, but it was still entertaining to watch. So I committed to streaming only online rank ladder games for Pokemon because that's what was the most fun for me, and it was my style. I've openly told people that I don't have any interest in playing in any best of 3 tournaments, and that I don't consider myself to be a VGC competitor, just a VGC streamer, VGC content creator. The content that I produce from playing the online rank ladder, it seems to be entertaining and appealing to others, so I like it, they like it, why not continue doing it? And personally, I think this is why I was able to commit to streaming so consistently, because grassroots tours for VGC aren't always available to play in, whereas the rank ladder, it's always there. It's always present. And me not being an actual VGC competitor who like goes to tournaments, I actually enjoy streaming playing the rank ladder nonstop, whereas I know there are some VGC competitors who don't even touch the online rank ladder since it doesn't really offer that much value or practice in real life tournaments because of the difference in format. Number 13, you have to accept that just because you're doing everything by the book, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be on a linear path to success or to partner. So streaming 5 days a week, regularly posting short form content doesn't guarantee that you're going to get Twitch partner. Sometimes factors like luck, good fortune, timing, natural charisma, natural talent will come into play. So I talked about him a few times already, but the streamer I hung out with at Twitchcon, Himmy Turner 69, he got Twitch partner in less than 10 months of streaming on Twitch. And this was before Twitch changed the partner requirements to what it is now, which and still is extremely rare to pull off. And also me and all the other VGC streamers who got Twitch partner after Pokemon Champions was released. I'd say that the timing had a lot to do with it. We all already had an established audience, and also we all jumped on the opportunity to stream the game when it came out because the hype for it was and still is at this time at an all-time high. I know someone who just started streaming around 2 months ago as of the time that I'm making this video, and she already got Twitch partner just from consistently streaming Pokemon Champions. Also, it's natural to compare yourself to others, but don't let it take over you. I admit that when I saw a lot of my fellow VGC streamers get partner one after the other before me, it did make me feel some type of way, despite the fact that I was happy for them. But I also felt kind of sad because my path to partner was a lot slower since I was limited to only streaming 2 days a week. So for me, fulfilling my requirements for applying for Twitch partner, it took a bit longer. But at the same time, I could also say it's extremely lucky for me that I was even able to get Twitch partner from streaming only 2 days a week and maintaining above a 75 average viewer count, whereas everyone else streamed a lot more than I did. So I guess in a way, they did work harder than I did to get Twitch partner. And not only that, but I'm also extremely lucky in the fact that my job is a remote work from home position, which meant that I didn't have to commute during those years where I streamed on weekdays, and I could wake up later without being completely exhausted. So I was more inclined to stream without worrying about being too tired for work the next day, which allowed me to stream as often as I did and allowed me to grow my following as much as I did, up to the point where Pokemon Champions came out and I really got my big break and got partner. Number 14, make yourself stand out. So like I said in the beginning of this video, something that I did and actually still do in my streams is flip my camera upside down while I'm streaming. So like this, just like this. Hello everybody, I'm upside down, blood is rushing to my head. It's something so simple, but I think it actually did make me stand out and it just became a part of my brand. So that's my journey with streaming Pokemon VGC and how I ended up becoming Twitch partner by only streaming on weekends. So let me know what you think, your thoughts and opinions. If you have any questions and if you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and or subscribe, and you can follow me on my Twitch, link down below, if you want to catch me live. Peace.